Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. How are you? Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, now we will come to today's news. In Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is having a real one today. They're the House of Representatives. She had a massive meltdown, a tantrum, because of her good buddy Ilhan Omar being thrown off her committee for the Foreign Affairs Committee. Absolutely. I'm glad that she's thrown off her and many other Democrats probably the meat thrown off, but of course AOC had to make it more than just that. She had to make it about race, right, in general, attacking women of color. Really? Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell are women of color because they just got thrown off their committees too. How can I be racist? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez cannot be, but they want to throw that around. People like AOC are dishonest actors who will sit there and try to use race in every instance. They failed to mention that their two buddies Eric Farwell and Adam Pencilneck Schiff both also got thrown off their committees recently for lying, for being liars, one for sleeping with a Chinese spy and being compromised by that, and the other one for obviously hating America. She absolutely hates this nation. She married her brother. And she sits there and she works to try to destroy her own community from within, by, of course, wanting to defund all police departments and usher in a federal police, right, because that's going to solve many things. Yeah, oh, maybe for the left. It is communists, it is. But anyway, so Alexandria Cortez, of course, is making a fool of herself. And she does that very well. And we're gonna highlight that right now. So let's get to take a look what we have here. Coming to us via the Citizen Press over on Twitter, great Twitter account. By the way, if you haven't checked them out, I would highly suggest you do so. Their link will be in description down below. It says meltdown on IOAOCF for Republicans through Ilhan and some people did something on home or off the Foreign Affairs Committee. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. ICE. She literally almost died, y'all. She literally almost died just now. I can't believe it. And she invokes that, by the way. It's pretty hilarious. Everyone listen to this, she says. Thank you. Now, as a fellow New Yorker, I think one of the things that we should talk about here is also one of the disgusting legacies after 9/11 has been the targeting and racism against Muslim Americans throughout the United States of America. And this is an extension of that legacy. Consistency. There is nothing consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack, except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in Boston. I had a member of the Republican caucus threatened my life. And you all in the Republican caucus would work with one of the most prestigious committee assignments in this Congress. Okay, she almost died, y'all, she almost died. Don't you know? Don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about an advocate. Nation of anti-Semitic remarks. When you have a member of the Republican caucus with twist talked about Jewish faith lasers and an entire amount of troops and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color Indian in the United States of America. Don't tell me because I didn't get a single attire. Threatened. My life was threatened. I almost died. I died so many times on January 6th. I did, and the vote came in and Ilhan Omar is off the committee. Yes. Okay. So this is the vote that was taken on when they kicked her off. So my thought, listen to it, is to mean y'all the Democrats did to me. Goodbye Ilhan Omar, that was amazing. That was worth listening to me. Yes. So she's gone. She's off on the committees along with the other two Adam Schiff. And of course Eric Farts. Well, of course it must be racism that they're off to committees to write racism. It's racism, I tell you anyway. They make fool themselves. And then, some significant news, FBI searches Biden's beach home without finding classified material. But take some handwritten notes. The FBI conducted a search on Wednesday morning of Joe Biden's beach home outside of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and did not find any classified documents but took some handwritten notes and other materials related to his time as vice president. Quote, no documents with classified markings were found, said Biden's personal lawyer Bob Bauer. Quote, consistent with the process in Wilmington, the DOJ took for further review some materials and handwritten notes that appear to relate to his time as vice president. When the news of the FBI search broke Wednesday morning, Bauer said that the Biden team will, quote, continue to fully support and facilitate with the federal investigation. The FBI found 6 classified memos in Biden's Wilmington home in Delaware last month. The federal law enforcement agency also reportedly searched Biden's former D.C. office at the Penn Biden Center after documents from his time as vice president were found shortly before the midterm election. Biden's attorneys searched his beach house last month, but no documents were found at that time. The House passes the show up at a GOP bill to return federal employees to the workplace. The Republican-led House of Representatives passed a bill on Wednesday that would bring more federal employees back to offices in Washington, D.C. The Stopping Home Office Work's Unproductive Problems Act, or Show Up Act of 2023, quote, requires each executive agency to reinstate the telework policies that were in place on December 31, 2019. The final vote was 221 to 206. Under the legislation, federal agencies cannot, quote, implement expanded telework policies unless the Office of Personnel Management certifies that such policies will have a positive effect on the agency's mission and operational costs. The $2.2 trillion CARES Act, the first of 3 pandemic stimulus bills, provided federal agencies with nearly $5 billion to expand teleworking infrastructure. Federal employees can still work under the legislation, but it would be at pre-pandemic levels, explained by the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, the sponsor of the new legislation. Muriel Bowser, mayor of Washington, D.C., has said unoccupied federal buildings could be used for additional housing in the city. Quote, "We need decisive action by the White House to either get most federal workers back to the office most of the time or to realign their vast property buildings for use by the local government, by nonprofits, by businesses, and by any other user willing to revitalize it," Bowser said in her inaugural speech in early January. Comer said he and Bowser are in agreement on filling unoccupied federal government buildings. 49 Senate Republicans and Joe Manchin moved to scrap Biden's ESG retirement rule. 49 Senate Republicans and Senator Joe Manchin unveiled a resolution that would eliminate Joe Biden's ESG investing rule, which may politicize 401ks. The Biden administration unveiled a Department of Labor proposal that would go into effect on January 30. That would allow retirement plan managers to consider environment, social, and governance factors in investment decisions. ESG investing is the latest vector through which Wall Street financial conglomerates and the government can force corporations, and by extension American investors, to adopt social. This includes combating alleged climate change, diversity requirements, and other leftist values. Quote, "Biden is jeopardizing retirement savings for millions of Americans for a political agenda," says Senator Mike Braun. Braun and Representative Andy Barr led the disapproval resolution, quote, "At a time when Americans' 401ks have already taken such a hit due to market downturns and record high inflation. The last thing we should do is encourage companies to make decisions with a lower rate of return for purely ideological reasons," Braun explained. He continues, quote, "That's why we are proud to stand up against this rule for the millions of Americans who depend on these funds for their retirement." Barr setting the statement, quote, "Retirement plans should be solely focused on delivering maximum returns, not advancing a political agenda. If Congress doesn't block the Department of Labor's rule greenlighting ESG investing in retirement plans, retirees will suffer diminished returns on the investment of their hard-earned money. It's time for Congress to act, and I applaud Senator Braun and our colleagues for renewing this fight." The Congressional Review Act allows lawmakers to sponsor a disapproval resolution, which means that the resolution cannot be blocked from being cut. Sitting on the floor, the resolution only requires a simple majority to pass through the Senate. Backers of the bill believe that one more Senate Democrat will back the resolution, meaning that it could likely pass through Congress's upper chamber. Kevin McCarthy says Republicans and Biden can find common ground on the debt ceiling and spending cuts. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said after a meeting with Joe Biden that he is optimistic that Democrats and Republicans can find common ground on the debt ceiling and spending. McCarthy said that he and Biden had a good first meeting and that they share their opposing opinions on how to raise the debt limit. Quote, "We promised we would continue the conversation and we'll see if we can get there. I think that at the end of the day, we can find common ground," McCarthy said, adding that he and Biden will continue negotiating on potential compromises on the debt ceiling. "I told him I would like to see if we can come to an agreement long before the deadline and we can start working on other things. McCarthy also appeared to rule out the idea of putting together a commission to find spending cuts, which some lawmakers have advocated for. Quote, "Nobody needs to tell us we have spent too much," the speaker said. McCarthy also said the greatest threat to America is our debt. House Republicans as well as many Senate Republicans have called for structural spending reforms and cuts as part of raising the debt ceiling. Biden has called for raising the debt ceiling with no spending cuts or reforms. This remains in stark contrast to 2006, when then Senator Joe Biden voted against raising the debt ceiling, expressing alarm about the rapid increase in the debt under then-President George W. Bush. Nikki Haley set to launch presidential bid on February 15. From AUN Ambassador Nikki Haley is entering the 2024 presidential race and will formally announce her candidacy on February 15. According to a South Carolina news outlet, the former governor is reportedly sending her backers invitations for a special announcement that will take place at the Shed downtown at the Charleston Visitor Center in downtown Charleston, where she will officially launch her candidacy. The report about Haley's presidential announcement came less than 2 weeks after she said in an interview that she believes she could be the leader to push America into a new direction. Quote, "When you're looking at a run for president, you look at two things. First, you look at the current situation, push for new leadership. The second question is, am I that person that could be that new leader?" Haley said. Haley is following Trump's lead and will be the second Republican to enter the upcoming presidential race. Democrats complain as House GOP majority holds illegal immigration hearing. The House's new GOP majority is holding a hearing about Joe Biden's easy migration policies at the border. Republicans, including Representative Jim Jordan, are spotlighting the civic damage from migration, including drug deaths, crimes, road deaths, and chaos. Democrats, however, are trying to divert attention from Biden's border policy and are instead slamming the GOP members as extreme MAGA Republicans supposedly eager to create, quote, "political stunts and theatrical hearings and to promote hate." Democrats also argue that migrants are eager to take jobs that would otherwise go to Americans. Quote, "Our country is better off for having you here." Representative Adam Schiff said Democrats do not acknowledge that the migrants drive down Americans' wages and push up Americans' rents. Democrats also ignore the huge scale of the illegal migration, which is now delivering at least 2 job-seeking migrants for every 4 Americans who enter the job market. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Give me your thoughts below and hit subscribe.